a very special Nailing the Apex with, of course, Tim Hauraney, and from joining us from TSN and Bardown, Daniel Zakrzewski, who did I get it right? Did I say it right? Zakrzewski?
Oh, Adam.
Zakrzewski?
You were close.
Ah!
You were close, Adam.
I call you Deezy, man. I told you I'd screw it up.
Okay, you didn't quite nail the RZ. If I could use the name of the show, but it's an impossible name, and I would never put that on anyone. That's why I have DZ. It's Zakrzewski technically, but don't worry, I do not care when people get my name.
Well,
it's totally all right. It's expected.
I'm horrific at names, so it doesn't help that I'm in a most of the time I'm covering hockey. With these crazy European names. You should have seen me try to get through the Latvian names when they announced the Olympic team today. It was really difficult. Merzlikins, Svilovs, who else do we have on that? Anyways, ridiculous. But boys, I'm really excited to do this today because we're now officially allowed to talk about the Formula One movie. And this has been, I have to contextualize this. This is Apple's biggest push. When they did their, big tech reveal where, Tim Cook gets on stage and he's, hello, Cupertino, and he does his thing and when he talks to everybody, this was the thing for Apple. And this is the thing for Formula One. And so we're kind of waiting on people's reviews and people who've seen it. So I have not seen it. You guys saw it in Montreal this past weekend. And the only thing that I've heard about this movie is from Kimi Antonelli, who I think said it was a little bit long.
Yeah, he said that.
That was a few weeks ago.
An insane thing to say at the same time because that's such a 17 or 18-year-old thing to say.
Yes,
it's too long.
Yeah. So I guess the thing I want to start with is because I'm going to ask you your full rating on it a little bit later. Okay. I want to start with the thing that they've been talking about the most with this, which is the new way that they have shot racing. We've seen a few good racing movies and a lot of terrible racing movies. I don't know what your thoughts are on Days of Thunder or that Sylvester Stallone IndyCar movie, which Tim hates so much.
Why would you hate that? It's driven.
It's driven. Oh, that's as raw and real as racing got. Tim just didn't get it.
That's right. That's right. So Tim, you've been in conversations with Scorsese, and he's talked about
Scorsese.
They have talked about how they've looked at this and they go, okay, we're going to develop new camera techniques for shooting this. And I think the key for any race fan, and if you're listening to the show, you're a race fan, you're hardcore, is a little bit of realism. I don't care about the story. I don't care about anything. Does it feel like you're in the car? Does it feel like you're next to the car beside you? Do you feel the stakes when they go into a high-speed corner or there's something, big happening in the plot line and they got to make a pass or whatever it is? How did it feel to watch the movie, I think is the first question.
You want a piece of this first, DZ, or do you want me to nibble on it?
You know what? Why don't we start with me? Because I feel like I'm going to be a ray of sunshine, perhaps, in this department. Even though I think Tim will like it.
You still don't know what I think. I still haven't told you what I thought.
That is fair.
Is Tim hating already?
They don't know. No, nobody knows.
I won't take it away from him.
My lips have been sealed. I haven't said.
I won't take that away from him. I would say that as more of while I've watched racing for years and I love racing and I appreciate authenticity from my perspective, which is closer to that of a casual than Tim, who has, literally raced cars before on the circuit that we were covering this weekend. He's got a whole other appreciation. For me, I thought that was easily the best part of the film. With anything Apple, the floor is always going to be pretty high because the presentation of what they put out there, there's only as low as it gets. It's always going to look really good. The way I looked at it, I don't know if you're into video games at all, Adam, or sports video games. They remind me of a mid to early 2000s EA Sports, Apple Productions, and this film in general, in that they nail the feeling, the authenticity, any piece of licensing that they have. All of that was brilliant. As far as actually feeling like an F1 product, the car shots were incredible. The new techniques that they used, very noticeable. Every scene that they had where it was swinging back and forth on the car, it felt like you were right there on the track. It made me feel like, man, if they even had that for the broadcast, which is tough to say, because they already have just about every angle you could think of in the broadcast, and yet they've presented something that you wish was on added to that as well. So the speed and just the feeling and the sound of it was incredible. And the fact that they went to real race weekends and embedded themselves in this, all of that paid off as far as the authenticity on that end went, and feeling as if they were really there and really a part of the sport. That part is like undeniable. It just looks cool and feels cool.
Okay, I love that. That's a great start. Thank goodness. Now, Tim, because I was like, man, if you'd started with something negative, I'd have been like, I don't know where we go from here.
Where are we going?
Where do we take this? Okay,
how do we go back up from here?
Actually, they didn't nail it at all. It's friggin' terrible. I can't believe they spent $1 billion on this. Tim, Tim, you, the race car driver, and you've seen all these movies. You've seen, Ford versus Ferrari, and you've seen, everything. How did this feel to you?
Yeah, the racing, I would agree with what DZ said. It puts you in the race car. They do a great job of that. And they do a really great job of making you feel like you're getting ready for a Grand Prix. I liked what they did with the camera angles, like DZ said, like the tracking and the panning and the different technology that they were using is actually really impressive. I mean, I got to sit down and speak with the director, Joe Kaczynski, about this, and the amount of like IMAX technology that they actually embedded into the car itself is really, really impressive. They were taking these massive IMAX cameras and they were distilling them down into these little tiny cubes. And I've been following the film around, like I've seen them like other journalists have at the track, shooting and all of that. And so I've been able to get up close with these cars and take a closer look at them when they're parked in pit lane, or sometimes they're parked off in the shadows somewhere waiting to go on to the track to shoot something. And so, yeah, I got right up and in there in Abu Dhabi and took a good look at where everything was placed and the very interesting ways that they've been able to develop different types of camera angles and camera shots at speed is really impressive. I thought they did a good job of that. I really liked the realism of that. Now, there's probably going to be a scene within the movie that some people are going to look at and they're going to be like, I don't know about that one.
Okay.
But outside
That's
of that...
not what Tim said before. Tim, use the comparison you made, because you made the whole media center, at least part of the one that we were sitting at there, laugh with your comparison. Go ahead and say what you said, I think. If not,
No, but I don't want to spoil the movie. So if I like say it now, then everyone's going to watch this and then they're going to know the movie and it's going to ruin it. So I don't want to spoil that part of it now. But when the movie has been out for a while, then let's revisit this and I will say what I said. I just don't want to spoil the part of the movie.
Okay. Good catch.
Outside that, I think there's going to be certain parts that F1 might be able to pull from for different camera angles with actual racing, like when their technology gets developed even further.
So you think that there is something that F1 can learn from this movie?
100%. Yeah, definitely. There's the director was telling me that he actually developed this IMAX camera that it was sat right on top of, it was just underneath the halo where they had put it, and it was able to move, and the director was in charge of moving it around whenever he felt that it should rotate. And so there's a couple scenes where like Brad Pitt is actually like racing with another driver, another car, and the camera's actually swinging in and out, going from panning from the one car back to him, back to the one car back to him, and it's all one shot. Like it hasn't been edited.
So they didn't splice that in. That's real.
It's all one thing. You can see the things zipping around and moving, and you're just like at speed. I mean, well, obviously Brad Pitt's not going at full speed, but like at speed, and it's like it's very like edge of your seat stuff. Like it was really cool.
So it looks brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, so it looks great. The other thing about Formula One that race fans are very, very particular about is its sound. And And that's because we love motors, and we love. Tim loves the V12s and does a great impression of them. Tim, every once in a while you get the. But the thing I wanted to ask about is, okay, I know I'm getting in the weeds here, guys, and there's a reason for it. We got to get nerdy. The Apex, absolutely. I did a little research. The power unit is supposed to be a Mercedes power unit. The Mercedes power unit sounds different than the Honda power unit. Sounds different than the whatever other else. Like when you hear Max's car and you're watching a Formula One race, you know that's the Honda power unit. You know it sounds different. I can hear it in the other room. Did you get a sense of any of those sounds? And maybe not just the power unit. I'm using that as an example, but how did it sound? Does it come through? Because these are the things, even if the story's not good, that they should nail. Did they nail it?
I think Tim's going to know the technical aspect of that more, because I do feel as if, for me, most of my attention to the sound came from the soundtrack, as far as just how they were implementing it, as well as all of the original score. So I'll talk about that second, I think, Tim, because your ears must have been hearing something as far as whatever engine they were using for
tires, whatever,
for Apex GP.
Yeah.
They gave you the hat. They gave us the hat. So I don't know what kind of machinery they were running, but Tim 100% probably does.
Yeah, no, they were. The sound design of it was really well done. It's excellent. You have to see this in an IMAX cinema. Okay. I wouldn't see it in anything else, to be perfectly honest with you, just because of that sound design. Like when the car goes up onto the rumble strips, that's what it sounds like. You hear that. It's not. It actually is the sound of a tire running over
that thumping.
Yeah, sound. Rumble strips. When they're shifting, you can hear and feel the gears. Same with the different types of engines. The Honda sounded different from the Mercedes, sounded different from the Ferrari. Like you could distinctively, even though it's subtle, you could pick that out. So like the hardcore F1 fan could pick out legitimate, that's what that sounds like. That's what that sounds like. Like they did a great job of all that. That I would say was quite excellent. The soundtrack for me, I mean, I could have taken it or left it. I mean, just give me the sounds of the cars, man. Like I don't need the soundtrack.
DZ, what did you think of the soundtrack? Did you like it? Because I mean, Apple should do well with the music that they have too. They're really good. They're known for that in their TV shows too, having great soundtracks.
Adam, I think this is much in your world as well, obviously.
A little bit.
Doing lots of radio work as far as soundtracks and really, more than anything, I mean, what's the job of a good soundtrack? It's to get as many big names as possible, the most current and popular, and get them into that film so it cross-promotes.
Yeah.
They did a brilliant job of that. I think there's probably at least 2 songs in there that I think probably have a good chance of kind of going past the movie and actually still being a hit of sorts. I think they leaned in the right direction with a number of them where it was a little bit more electronic. But I will say, I don't know if you guys have seen Gran Turismo. Mm-hmm. I like that a little bit more as far as on the racing side, because, again, this is so subjective, just like all music conversation, any entertainment conversation is. But to me, the sound of like Formula One is more electronic, especially in this era. I almost think that, and they probably wouldn't have gotten the help from Max Verstappen on this, but that guy's like a EDM nutcase. Like he loves it. And I think as being in the sim racing crowd and just being in the culture of what current racing likes, I feel like they maybe should have asked him to tap into that a little bit more, just to kind of get a little bit more electronic in there. But clearly, they have, I mean, the Top Gun director, and it's technically a very American film, and it's a summer blockbuster, so they got a little bit of the rock music in there as well, which was a nice little nod. And they have a who's who on that list, like Tate McRae's, I think, has got a song.
Ed Sheeran,
Ed Sheeran.
Madison Beer is in there. Tiesto, Chris Stapleton, Roddy Ricch, Dom Dolla. Like, it's a pretty big name. So it's
huge.
And they are actually making them available on CD, cassette, and vinyl formats too. So you can.
Oh, really? Cassette? Yeah. Who buys cassette, man?
I guess that's become a bit of a retro thing, but cassettes are just not as fun and not as good as vinyl.
They sound like garbage.
Yeah, they sound terrible. I don't understand.
And they're limited.
Yeah, get the vinyl.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say like Hans, I would say like Hans Zimmer's contribution stands out more to me than the others. when like Hans Zimmer is taking over a scene, because you can feel the investment and it starts to draw you into the movie more. And then when we get like the, all the other stuff, and it's just kind of like, you lost me. Like it's because it's like you can feel like the presence of like Hans Zimmer greatness.
He's a bit of a master at that,
right?
yeah.
And it's just kind of draws you in, and it's just attacks all your senses.
Not even like a film score, but you know who I always thought did this brilliantly? Was Top Gear. Whenever they reviewed stuff, I thought they always nailed their choice of music perfectly when they were trying to be serious with certain cars. And they used a lot of UK music, but they used a ton of like electronic UK music that just fit perfectly. But also they had certain rock bands, like I don't know if people know them, like Doves and whatnot, but had a little bit more of an electronic sound to it versus just like a twangy kind of country, which is what some of the rock is. But
I agree with that.
Yeah, it was a good soundtrack though. I thought it was.
I personally think in the video games, like the F1 and the FIFA games have the best soundtracks every year. Like year over year, they nail it every year. It's amazing. Yeah. Okay, so I guess, the next question, and this is the more obvious one, which is why I saved it for later. Was it believable in the scope of it's a movie? Okay. Brad Pitt is, I'm assuming, not supposed to be playing a guy his age. He's probably playing a guy who's 10 years younger than what Brad Pitt actually is. Now, he's had some...
10 might be generous.
Yeah, that might be. You're right. You're right. Like, what is he, 55? I'm going to look this up. I mean, he's
he's into his 60s, isn't he?
Is he?
He's really? That's what we kept saying this weekend, and I never double checked it for my
61.
61. Yeah, there you go.
Whoa, man! Come on.
Is it right? When Tim said that this weekend, I was like, no.
Yeah.
But
jeez, yeah,
dude, he was 50 when he did Ocean's 13, probably.
Oh my god.
Whoa.
Anyways, not trying to age shame.
Can I just say that
he looks brilliant?
Yeah,
I mean, I wish I looked like.
I know. As I said, he of course, because of my entertainment side of my career, we knew when he got like some work done, and he went to a very particular doctor. Apparently, his facelift cost close to $200,000.
Oh, it's a real thing. I'm honestly.
Oh no, it's a real thing.
Yeah. I'm so oblivious in this world. Like, the reason that stars get this work done is because of schmucks like me. They're like, damn, he looks great for his age.
How'd he do that?
Yeah, he must be working out.
Well, as the saying is, you're not ugly, you're just poor. That's the saying. So, but I guess like the story in itself is obviously always going to be a bit cheesy, and we can kind of see Brad Pitt, cowboy, coming back for one last ride, never quite got there, right? And then young, cocky driver who needs a little bit of guidance. That's literally the same as the Stallone movie. Right? Like that's literally what Stallone was brought in for too when he was in his movie. But I'm just wondering for you guys, did it feel like a movie that you could let go, almost like Fast and Furious, where you kind of go, this is just going to be fun and I'm going to enjoy this? Or is it a little more serious? How does it hit?
Tim, you want me to get, you know what?
Yeah, you go for it.
You want me to get this first? All right. I've thought long and hard of this. This is the second part of my EA Sports analogy.
I love this.
That
on the edge of my seat.
That mid 2000s EA Sports game, again, getting into the later 2010s there, they all had the licensing and nailed the feel of it, but you kind of wish it had the 2K mechanics. That's the second part of this, where I joked with Tim, for example, that imagine if they make this summer blockbuster film and it's all about someone acting like they're Kevin Magnuson, like later on, like doing just like, stalling traffic so that their teammate can get 9th place and things like that. And that's literally what large parts of this film are. I'm not even trying to give a spoiler, but like, I do think one of my biggest issues, while Tim's will be separate to the authenticity and the buy-in, to me, it was just, they wanted that underdog story so bad that to me they went a little bit too far down the grid, in my opinion, because where the believability fell apart for me and the fun factor, because trust me, Adam, I really was like, I like the Fast and the Furious.
Yeah.
I like Top Gun. I liked Gran Turismo, and just as much as I liked Rush, like I really like cheesy summer blockbusters that know what they are. I have no qualms about that whatsoever, and how authenticity ties about that. But it actually just kind of felt like it was in the middle of things, and I almost do wonder with the direction that they took, that having so much guidance from Formula One, I wonder if they looked and were like, we're tired of these movies that just talk about the top of a championship and it's just about the world driver's title. Because when we're bringing in new fans, they need to understand that the midfield battles and the ones at the back so that you can even exist matter just as much as the ones at the top. I want it, like, the more I thought about it, the more it almost felt like such a conscious decision, because it is F1 the movie here again.
Yeah.
Their logo is in it. Like, this is very much a 2-hour ad for their sport. No issues with that at all. That's what you know you're getting into. But I do wonder if that was their way of trying to educate their audience while also kind of maybe missing out on the Jerry Bruckheimer side of it, of just like not just explosions, but just larger stakes than perhaps were presented in the film. And that's actually surprisingly what took me out of it. Not the stuff that I think Tim's about to get into, which is a little bit more egregious in that department.
Yeah. Okay, I like that. That's a great way of saying it without spoiling anything. Okay, so Tim, what are your thoughts to add to Jeezy?
After the first couple races, Brad Pitt would be disqualified from Formula One.
Okay. So we're talking huge penalty points.
This was Kevin Magnussen bag.
Yeah. It's a movie though, right? Like we're grading on a curve here. It doesn't have to be super realistic. It's not a biography.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? It's there are some moments of a movie where you're really invested, and then there's some moments of the movie where, like, I always go into a movie that being like, if a movie can steal 2 hours of my time and actually bring me into their world and like hold me there, then they've done a excellent job. Because I go to a movie, I pay my money because I want to be entertained, but I also want to be brought into a world where I don't have to think about what's going on in my daily life, right? It's my time to sort of relax and go somewhere else for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
With this movie, I kind of get pulled in and out of it. Like I'm starting to get invested, and then I get something, and I have to rewatch it. I have to go and watch it again because I get invested, and then I get pulled out of it again. And then I'll start to get invested, and then I get pulled out of it again.
Do you think that might be, Tim, because of your proximity to the sport? Like,
yeah,
is that part of it?
Yes, that was going to be my next point that I make. Is that that's all good. It's the fact that, like, I think, like, for me, I am too close to the sport, and I think, like, that part of it separates it for me. Like, I can't keep going with it because there will be something that stops me from sort of. Sorry, guys, I got a pizza coming in here. I gotta let them. I gotta buzz them in. But
what's on it? What's the topic?
Yeah, what's we going here?
Well, we got 3 pizzas. We got one that's got a lot of vegetables on it. We got one that's got some meat and veg, and then we got one that's got all meat. So there you go.
I'm very upset with Tim right now because this guy ate salad all week in Montreal.
I know, this is it. This is my time to I did eat salad all week. I was telling my girlfriend
food available to you in Montreal, and you're eating a pizza at home.
Now we see him in his personal space. Like, sorry, boys, got Domino's coming in.
Yeah. And also, how many people you got over there, Tim? Like you got 3 pizzas. Who are you ordering?
I've got company here.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah,
okay,
they're chatting in the living room, waiting for me to wrap up my thoughts.
Is that actually true, or are you
that's
guys
actually
just ordered...
true?
Okay, I was just gonna say that's about as much pizza as I ordered for my daughter's birthday party this weekend. So that's a lot.
Okay, like, two smalls and a medium. That's what we got.
You know, DZ, I'm just more upset we didn't get invited to Tim's. Like, are we? I didn't get an invite. What is
Tim,
that?
I'm in the kitchen right now, and it's not yours.
Dude, you guys are more than welcome to come over for pizza as soon as we're done recording this if you want. I don't care. My door is open. You know that.
So you were kind of, just to pick it up, you were talking about, you know, your proximity to things, and you realize sometimes you said you had to rewatch it. You're going to need to rewatch it.
Yeah, I need to rewatch it for sure. I would say, like, and I think that was probably some of the separating parts for me. there is also there are also some moments. I don't know if we're going to talk about the acting or not, Adam, because I don't want to.
I definitely want to talk about.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll save that part then. But I'll just say there are moments in the movie where it's like I do start to get invested, and then I get removed from it. And then the racing scenes, for the most part, I was fully invested. There are a couple moments like within like racing scenes where like I'm really, really in it, and then all of a sudden like one of the characters will be like, "Woo!" Like see that pass? I'm gone. Like it just that pulls me right out of it. As I'm like that would never happen. Like that a driver would never do that. Like they have too much stuff going on, but that's where I'm like, okay, I see what they're doing here, and I understand. Like I get it. And
okay, so
I appreciate what they've made.
Did you see Tyrese go into space in Fast and Furious?
I've never watched those movies, man. I can't get into them.
Come on, you got to watch those movies. Man.
Tim left when they were
like Vin Diesel
VC.
flying through the air like he's going to outer space in a friggin'
and you've
T-bird.
You've lived your whole life and never seen Tokyo Drift.
No,
that is a shame.
Tim literally left the series when they were still stealing VCRs.
Yeah,
and VCR TV combos. Like think about how low the stakes were in the first movie. Yeah.
We might steal hundreds of dollars. This is crazy.
Hundreds.
Yeah. So you mentioned the acting, guys. Javier Bardem as I'm assuming a team principal. I don't actually. I
want to talk about this. Yeah, get into Javier Bardem.
Okay, first off, he looks so much like Fernando Alonso. I feel like he should play him in a biopic. But how was he? Was he convincing as a team principal?
I thought he was. Like, I really like Javier Bardem. I don't think he can really go wrong in any film I've ever really seen him in. I think they nailed the vibe of trying to get someone who's like glitzy, but at the same time aggressive and very much a racer's racer. Because I don't think it's too much of a spoiler, but he's a former driver in the film, and they do a good job of that while still having him kind of operate in the space of rubbing shoulders with billionaires. I think his job on the acting front was excellent, personally. I had no issues. Was it over the top and dramatic? Yeah, but I would have been disappointed if it wasn't, as I was saying before. I mean, those are the staples and the tenets of a true, like, Jerry Bruckheimer film. Like, you want those outlandish characters, and I actually think he fit very well into that space.
Tim?
I would say for me, when I was watching the trailer, I was like, I don't know about this.
Okay.
Javier Bardem. Then
hold on. You're a tough critic.
Hold on. Let me finish my thought. Then when I saw them shoot a couple scenes in the paddock, I was like, I don't know about Javier Bardem here. I'm like, I love this guy. I think he's probably one of my favorite actors. Like, he's incredible.
Yep.
And then when I watched him in the movie, I was like, there's a reason why he's in this. Like,
so you're into it. Okay.
It worked.
He is like, he's the, for me.
He had us there, Adam. He had us.
Yeah, man.
For me, hold on. For me, he was one of the best parts of the movie.
Okay.
For me. Because I thought his acting was probably, he was setting the bar, I felt, at some points within scenes.
So Carrie Condon, who's been on a lot of things, most recently, I think she was in the Star Wars sort of kids show Skeleton Crew, but she dates all the way back to the HBO show Rome and has been in a lot of different things as a great sort of character actress. I think she's the PR head. Again, I haven't seen the movie, but I believe love interest with her and Brad Pitt as well.
She's the technical director, actually.
She's the technical director. Okay, there you go. How did you feel like she did?
I thought she did well in her role. I think, without giving spoilers, some of the critique of this film will very much be centered around her character and the arc that it takes. And I know how silly that sounds. Again, speaking about a popcorn flick, the arc of her day. But no, I really do think that she's probably one of the more complicated characters to discuss, because they kind of nail it in the sense that there was a great character there that they kind of, in my opinion, and I think I heard this quite a few times from people who saw the movie there that same night, they just didn't use it in the right way. Nothing to do with her acting though.
Okay.
Not at all. Like she nailed her part as far as what they gave her. It's just like, man, I think there could have been more out of that character because she's incredibly charming. Like, and I just think that she nailed feeling so authentic to that space and holding that role, and it was just kind of the way that they use that character might be one of the things that gets critiqued, but not down to her acting. That is for sure.
No, I agree with that. I think like I thought she did a great job with what she was given for sure.
Now we get the two actors. I'm saving Brad. I want to ask you about Damson Idris. What did we think as Joshua Pierce, the young driver, up and coming, needs a little bit of, I guess, old Brad Pitt information to become the champion he should be. What did you think about him?
Do you want me to start there again, Tim?
Yeah, and character arc and acting and all of it.
I can go first. I can go first if you want me to, but
no, I got thoughts. I mean, I want to try and not spoil this too. I was talking to my girlfriend about this just before we started, and so this film obviously was produced by Lewis Hamilton, and I think it's wonderful that they had him in there as representation as far as understanding that the grid can certainly look a little samey and having him there. But I found it very interesting the direction that they went in with him, because it just felt like they went as stereotypical as far as just like cocky young drivers. No stereotype past that. Literally just more of a young athlete, no matter what race they are. Just like, they think they know better than the team. But the one-dimensional side of it, I think he probably had one of the hardest jobs in that. You know how people hate kids in films?
Yeah.
Where it's just like, oh my God, like, a teenager is going to act the way that they act. So you get it, but it's never going to be your favorite character because you're just waiting to roll your eyes. There were a lot of moments like that with him where I'm like, I like this dude's charisma, and I like how he sounds, and I like what they're trying to attempt with him. But he just had so many nonsensical moments where you were just like, bro, what are you even on about? Like, he had the toughest lift, I would say, script-wise, of escaping that film with having people really rooting for him. Not even necessarily with the arc of where the story goes. I'm not trying to give away plot lines or saying that he becomes a villain or anything like that. Mm-hmm. It's just his character ends up being, probably the second most ludicrous, but also he doesn't get the highs to kind of offset the ludicrous so that you leave there feeling endeared by him.
Got it.
There are moments where, like, there's Damson Idris, there's Brad Pitt, there's Javier Bardem, and there's Carrie Condon, and they're all in a scene sort of together. And I think they all sort of have their sort of moments, but there are certain scenes where I felt like Damson actually really shined within that cluster of greatness of actors, right? Like I felt like he was the one driving some of the scenes forward, no pun intended. Yes. I felt that there were other scenes where he was overacting a little bit. It felt like there was some like, do we really need that scene? Like at some points, like where there's just like so much of him celebrating over not much, and it's kind of like, do we need that scene? Like, because that I don't know what we're trying to tell.
Yeah,
at that point,
it made no sense. Like, there were a couple parts where it even broke his character.
Yes,
where it was like,
that's what I was looking for.
I'm like, we don't even know this character that well, but I feel like I know him well enough that I'm very confused by your behavior here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Doesn't fit the profile.
And there's scenes where there's like him and his mom, or him and his mom and his agent, that really fit and flow quite nicely, and they actually really come together really well. And then the payoff from those scenes in another scene, they pay off really nicely. Mm-hmm. But then there's other parts where it's just like him and Brad, and it's like, this feels really rusty, and they're trying to get this scene over the hump.
Do they have chemistry? Do you feel like they
didn't feel like that? Like, I felt like there was more chemistry when there was like a good group of them. Like when it was more team building, I would call it, let's say. And when there's this team atmosphere going on, and they're trying to sew together from team friction, like those little moments were actually really well done. Those are the scenes that actually kind of really pulled me in. But then there were some that kind of broke and dissolved and kind of pulled me out of it a bit.
I think the way that they tailored the story is partially why it would have been very difficult for them to really kind of get to the peak of their chemistry on screen, because there were moments where clearly all of the chemistry mostly came from tension, when these guys were just going, like, here's a young brash cocky guy versus a guy who's been there, and sure, he didn't get to prove himself in the end, but he certainly knows more than the young guy. And those moments, there were a number of them, but they were kind of short. They were kind of one note in some cases, where I think that it would have been nice to kind of, again, have those scenes be a little bit more fleshed out, because when they were at each other's throats, it was pretty good. Like I actually did buy that dynamic between them. I do think that's where he shined the most, as far as just really nailing his character's charisma, is when he was being so, like, such dismissive and like a dick to Sonny Hayes. He nailed that. I thought he was hilarious when he was making fun of him a lot of the time.
Me too.
So that was great, but we didn't necessarily get enough of it, for them to nail that chemistry.
So obviously Brad Pitt as Sonny Hayes. What did you guys think as a 61-year-old probably playing a 41, 42-year-old? Forget that part of it, I guess, right? Because it's, we all know it's a movie. Yeah. What did you think of his character and the arc, and did it work for you? Oh, that's a big pause, gentlemen.
I'm waiting for Tim. Tim's the experience.
That's a big pause.
He's the grizzled vet, the old race car driver. You have the right to it. I spoke about young, cocky, and brashy, man.
All right. Yeah, fair enough. You know what? Look, some parts of this, it felt like he was invested, and then there felt some parts of it that felt like he wasn't. And I don't know if that's due to
interesting
the edit, or if that's due to the take, or if that's due to script.
Okay.
And so that obviously those are the three biggest components when you're trying to put together a scene. I felt that there were other moments where this seems believable. Okay, he doesn't look like a 61-year-old racing driver. I mean, what age would we be putting him at in this movie? I mean, when you look at Javier Bardem and the two of them racing together when they were younger and all this stuff, you're kind of like, is he 50? Right? And then you're like, okay, I don't know if there's going to be a 50-year-old Formula One driver anytime soon, right? Like, so that part of it, you got to go in when you're watching Brad Pitt's performance, like knowing that this is like a blockbuster summer popcorn sort of movie. I think.
Got it.
I think the Brad Pitts, the George Clooney's, and the Tom Cruises of the world, where obviously the majority of what you're going for there is just that, like, assuredness, that coolness, where they don't ever really have to kind of, like, step above a certain decibel to kind of have that cool and maintain. What makes it so brilliant and so rare is that it's like to keep entertaining while being at that note is very difficult. It requires such a level of charisma, because otherwise it's just boring. It's someone who's just doesn't emote, right? And I would say that, and obviously the points of tension that you get from those characters, so then you get the 180 of it, where when they are explosive and they are emotional and it's used in the right way, you get the full picture of that actor and why they're so cool. I kind of agree with Tim, where, like, I certainly don't think he was, disassociated with what he was working on, but I do think that he falls into the background a little bit, where there's a bit too much of him just kind of being happy to be there and like, what a project. Kind of cool, I'm here. Where maybe, again, it probably doesn't necessarily play to Brad Pitt's strengths quite the same, because what makes it, like, I know that the Ocean series is not the only films he's in, but I do think it closely relates in that what makes those movies so great as well is just how many of these guys are in there and how well they bounce off each other. And I think Brad Pitt is obviously such a guy where he does need to have those other guys around him to really kind of lift certain scenes with him
Hmm.
and have that charisma so that he doesn't kind of just come off as just one tone. Which, yeah, he kind of just felt there is sometimes, you know. I wouldn't say that this is the most memorable thing I've ever seen Brad Pitt in. I would say, and it's don't think he did a bad job or anything, but again, I just think maybe I think it would have been cooler to get a version of him that you don't see in these movies,
Okay.
where maybe he's actually more pissed off for a lot more of it and more filled with regret and more being like,
Mm.
that surface confidence that I have isn't all necessarily all that
Yeah.
real.
So
And
a
here's
little more
that
emotion
rage.
in there.
Yeah.
Exactly. How much people love when Adam Sandler breaks from that exact mold that you get.
Yeah.
Suddenly, anytime Adam Sandler tries something else, it's like the best thing you've ever seen him in. I almost think that would have been a cool thing for Brad Pitt here to just be a bit more angry and pissed off for most of this thing, almost more like Brad Pitt from Seven. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Oh, shit.
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Yeah, he's pissed in that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's pissed.
Yeah, that's a great point, because there's a moment at the beginning of the movie that kind of sets off Sonny Hayes's sort of character trajectory, character arc that they don't dig into like enough. Like there needs, when you see it, you'll know you see it, because the actually opening of the
is.
movie is really great. Like they grab you immediately as soon as the movie starts. You're like, oh, right on.
Mhm.
And then it's kind of like, I don't want to say it gets lazy, but it doesn't dig into it enough. Like they should have kept digging into this specific moment that Brad Pitt sort of his character goes through at the beginning of the movie that kind of sets his arc, sets his compulsions, sets his what do you call it when every time he gets into the car, he has to do this one thing. Has to, or else it's not going to be a good race, kind of thing.
Right.
Like dig into that,
like a quirk. Yeah.
Yes, like dig
Yeah.
into that more. Like that's where I felt the script was really lacking, and I felt that like Brad Pitt could have gone. Like I think he definitely could have gone. And I think DZ brings up a good point. Like you think about his acting in Seven and David Fincher's movie, like that was incredible, Brad Pitt. Like that was incredible acting. So
He's pissed
Okay.
off. If I could sum up that thought in one thing and tie it to the actual world of Formula One, I didn't want media pen Brad Pitt. I wanted cockpit radio Brad Pitt more.
Got it.
Where
Yes.
it's like you get the real guy. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like, the race is fine, and like I'm smiling through it. And then the second they leave the media pen, you get the real face, and they're like grumbling and whatever. And it's what you hear in the car. There could have been more moments of that versus
Yes,
him
got
just
it.
being cool.
Okay, so last couple things here. This is a race movie staple. Okay, guys are in a tight spot. They look over at the driver next to them. They shift gears and they take off like a rocket, which is just every race movie you've ever seen. Big and they slam the friggin' gears, right? Like it's not, you don't want to, you're not shifting. You're fucking slamming that thing. Obviously we got paddle shifters in Formula One, but is there any of that? Is there any
like
shift and take off like a rocket moment?
Just like what is it, Ja Rule again? Going back to that, Monica.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know if they're. Do they have?
Did they
that?
avoid
don't-
that?
I didn't
think they really have that.
No, the DRS was probably the biggest one.
Yeah.
Which
like
makes
whenever,
sense.
Yeah, like whenever that got used, then that was kind of like that gear shift moment where it's
Yeah.
like, I'm going into overdrive, type deal.
Yeah.
But that's part of Formula One, right? Like
Yeah.
there is DRS is used. Like, and that's the other thing about the movie, right? They do try to draw on everything that happens in it. They do try to draw on from stories that have happened in Formula One in the past.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
even with
you know-
even with accidents and crashes and things that happen in the
There's
aftermath
a precedent
of it,
to it. It's happened
like
before.
they tried
Yeah.
to like they tried to draw on some of those old F1 sort of stories and bring them in.
Okay.
There's other stories that we can't talk about right now because
Yeah.
the movie has to come out first for us to dig deeper into some of the other stories that they do show. And I don't want to ruin it for like older F1 fans because they will know when they see it. So
Okay.
They stayed true for sure to the sport on that one, but I would say again, speak of the Gran Turismo film, where I think they had an upper hand, and I'm glad they used it. was the ridiculous nature of racing games, and they put that in there for those gear shifts and those weird things where like they had the numbers over the car, and it was just like it felt like you were connected to it, just like in the games. They had the literal racing lines, and him avoiding it so that he could make these crazy overtakes. I don't know how they would have put that in here, but I don't think there are any like immaculate overtake moments that kind of ring like that, as you said, that gear shifting feel.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad, because those do kind of pull you right out of a movie.
Yeah, and
right?
I think
Like,
a big part of it. I think a big part of it is because of like Lewis Hamilton's the amount that he was invested in the movie. Like he was getting sent copies of this movie to review quite often, and he was saying like, okay, well, this driver wouldn't shift gears here because that's not what would happen.
Mm-hmm.
They would shift gears here, and they would brake here, and it would sound like this, and this is what it would look like, and this is what it would feel like. And so I thought Lewis is pretty instrumental in making the racing scenes and the feel of the car and making you feel like you're in the car and shifting gears at the right time. And that all of that is 100% authentic. Like that is like nailed to a T.
You know what they really did, and I know Tim's going to scoff slightly at this because they got one moment of it wrong. They really did do a good job of the fact of how much racing performance is not in the car and the gear shifting, but in the tires.
Yeah.
I do think they tried to have that conversation a lot more.
Yeah.
So, and they would make it like they'd hammer the point home, he's on hard that he's been using, or like they're not warm, and they did do that.
Flat spot the size of my head, and it's
exactly
like, okay,
so
I'm
they
going
really
to set
sort of
another
overdid
lap.
Yeah.
You're like,
okay.
no, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So last question, boys. Give it a rating out of 10.
Tim, you can go first on this because I'm bad with this. I'm so bad at giving numbers
me too.
to things.
I'm terrible.
Is there a better way to talk about
No,
it? Like
no. There's
I'm gonna go.
Where is it on the grid? Can I do it that way?
Yeah. Where did it qualify?
Where did it qualify? I like that. P20. No, I'm just kidding.
If I'm gonna go,
Pit lane. No, I'm just kidding. Pit lane start. Okay, I'll think, Tim, if you want to go
all
first.
right. So if we're gonna go with numbers, I'll say is about a 6.5, 6.8 out of 10.
Okay. So on the grid, it's like a Williams
I would
level?
say that.
Yeah, there you go.
I would say one of the main thing for me, I think, is the story. Like the script itself needed a little more work. I would also say I wanted more from from Brad Pitt. I wanted more from him. When it comes to the direction, in the direction of the racing, it doesn't get any better than that. Like it was I mean, for some of the little tiny moments that I'm talking about where I'm like, the guys in the car like going, woo, like stuff like that. Like those little moments, you just cut those out. You've got a perfect, like for racing on the big screen and an IMAX screen. Really, really awesome. So if you're going to see it, make sure you go to an IMAX theater to see this movie.
Got it.
Like if you're going to go and see it, go to an IMAX theater, check it out, make your own opinion of it, and let us know.
Okay.
I'm gonna try and not come off as an abhorrent name dropper here, but follow with me, boys, here. So one of the best parts of seeing this movie the way that we saw it was that it was the media premiere at the Canadian Grand Prix, where we sat at the front where, you were just entering the theater, as it were. And, Ted Kravitz from Sky Sports, you see him with his popcorn come in. Then you see Crofty come in. Then you see Jacques Villeneuve come in. And then at one point, Jerry Bruckheimer is just standing next to us.
Right in front of us.
Literally like a couple feet in front of us. And we're like, what's going on? Like, what's he doing here? Like, then the director comes in, they get him a little mic. And I will say that, sure, Jerry Bruckheimer doesn't need my praise for this, but he sold what they were aiming for so brilliantly with an analogy he gave, where he said that they blind tested this film and that before they watched the film, they asked how many people had ever watched a Formula One race. And it was 1 out of like 20 people.
Right.
By the time that the film was over and they'd asked him that, hey, would you ever consider watching Formula One after seeing this? He said all 20 hands in the room were up, and that's what they were aiming for.
Yes.
And that became such a big discussion point, I think, even in the media room and following is, well, who is this film for? And in selling it to Formula One fans of the future. I think they will be successful in that. I think that there's enough attached to it from all of the names they've attached to this soundtrack and just being Brad Pitt and it being Top Gun adjacent in a summer that could really use a movie like that.
Yeah.
But as far as how I would rate it as a film, and aside from its visual beauty and its authenticity and sound and look, I think it's a car that's P11 that just missed out on Q3 because it's a little bit, well, what happens when you try to cater to a wide group of people? You kind of fence it, obviously. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but I think that's what holds it back from being a great thing.
Do you think there will be a sequel?
F2. He drops a level. He drops down a level.
Jerry Bruckheimer was asked that question when we were with him, and he said the basically the moviegoers will decide whether or not there's going to be.
So
a
it's
sequel.
on the table. It's on the table.
Oh. Yeah, he said the moviegoers would decide. That's what he said. So.
Oh, I'll go. I mean, I don't care how good or bad it is. I'm going to be there.
Yeah. Adam, when are you seeing it?
I want to see it the opening weekend, but I can't because it's draft and free agency basically all that weekend. Okay. So for the NHL, so I'm going to go.
Have to go in the IMAX, Adam.
I'm going to go in the IMAX. I promise you. Yes.
Can I pitch an idea?
Give it to it.
Can the three of us see this movie at some point? It doesn't have to be the first time you see it. Three of us, so we can go and see. Okay, that's what these guys were saying. Because I'm curious to hear what you think of this film.
Okay, but I would love to do that. It's a mandate. I love it.
Right.
Yes, let's do it.
I'm in. I'm game.
I'm in for that. Okay, boys, listen. This has taken entirely more time than we thought it would, but I just want to say I love your breakdowns. Thank you for getting into the weeds with this with me because I really wanted to kind of break this down without giving away any spoilers. DZ, we've never met before in person, but big fan of you forever. And you guys do such a great job. And I was saying to Tim, I said this off the air, I'll say it on the air. You guys did such a great job at Montreal this past weekend. So congratulations on all your success. And thanks for making time for us, man. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Adam. I really appreciate that. Thank you. It's very kind of you to say. And I love what you guys do over here as SDPN. I've met Steve a couple times in person. Accidentally. Total prick. No,
yeah.
He's awesome. I know Jesse from school.
You went to school with Jesse?
I went to school with Jesse. I was like kind of like I was a commuter kid though, so like we didn't get to hang out much. But love all of what you guys do. I think you guys are doing such an awesome fucking job. So thank you. It means a lot that you're saying that, and the same to you. And I can't wait to meet you in person so we can discuss this film and meet each other in person. So
I love it, boys. Real pleasure. And so now that the embargo's lifted, here it is. So DZ, I hope you'll join us again. Just to talk Formula One, just talk one of the races or whatever.
Yeah,
would love to.
Beautiful. Okay,
thanks guys.
All right. There, guys.